I want to begin with the hot child death trial. Remember, the South Carolina couple, Rita Pangalangan and Larry King, were on trial for the death of 13-year-old Cristina Pangalangan. Rita's daughter, Cristina, was nonverbal and wheelchair-bound when she was left in a car for 5 hours, where she later died. On Friday, the jury found both Rita Pangalangan and Larry King guilty of murder and bodily injury to a child. But today, we have a very special guest joining us, Rita Pangalangan's daughter, Ashley Pangalangan. And before I introduce her, I'd like you to listen to a snippet from her victim impact statement that she gave on behalf of her mom.
I just felt like it goes without saying, if everyone in the room could have just hugged her for a couple of seconds, they would know what the verdict should have been. They just could have held her like she's held me.
I want to welcome to the Law&Crime Network, Ashley Pangalangan, and I thank you for joining me, Ashley. And I want to talk about that most incredible victim impact statement, very emotional, just for a minute. What was it that you wanted the jury to know about your mom?
Just how much she loved us, all of us. There's a lot I wanted her to know, wanted them to know. Her house was always clean. She's always been a good mom. I also felt like it should be heard that ever since the trial's been over, there's been several people, I think, that felt guilty about not coming forward sooner, to say that drugs were put in her drink. She didn't want to get on the stand to say that she did not voluntarily use, because her lawyer advised her that it would make her sound, I guess, even more guilty. But I stand firm behind my mom that she didn't voluntarily get high. She hated drugs. She went to Al-Anon meetings because she suffered for having addicts in the family. And from Larry being an addict, she went to Al-Anon meetings while he went to NA meetings, and they just got back together. So if you noticed, he never said on the stand that they were using together, and he also admitted that she slept. So to say that my mom voluntarily used drugs, she also said it was the first time it had ever happened, or she'd ever been high, which could explain a lot of what everyone saw that day in the video, why she was shaking her head when the judge was saying they were on the drug binge.
Well, let me ask you this, Ashley. You just mentioned a number of things, and one very important thing. You said that her lawyer advised her not to take the stand, but do you think that your mom should have taken the stand to tell her side of the story? And what was the most important point that only she could make?
I think that we all thought that if she got on the stand and said that she didn't use those drugs, we just didn't think anyone would have believed her, even though people that knew my mom knows that she's been sober her whole life. So
I think, Ashley, what got people on this case is that Cristina was in the car for 5 hours without any help. So when the jury made their decision, what was your reaction to it? Also, I'm sure you knew and loved Cristina.
Yes, ma'am. We all just thought that they would know it was an accident. I mean, we truly believed that it was an accident. We never would have thought we'd be here saying that my mom murdered my sister. Not in a million years. We all were hopeful she was coming home.
So you think that the jury could forgive your mom for it being an accident, but can you understand that the jurors could be also very upset that Cristina died?
Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, we were all upset that Cristina died, but I just don't feel like punishing my mom is ever going to bring my sister back. I can see the rationale in it.
Now, you talked a lot about drugs, and you said that you don't think your mom actually partook in the drugs, that something was put in her drink. Are you suggesting that Larry King did something to maybe sexually assault your mother or give her drugs? Is there more to the story that has not been told, and can you tell us?
I've at least 4 people since the guilty verdict was given Friday told me that he had been bragged about it at Faith Home, where I guess a rehab facility that he went to, that he put 1.5 grams of drugs in her drink. And I don't think these people would come forward, but if they would, if they would have before the verdict, it might have done something. It could have helped her.
Did your mom indicate to you anything about whether or not Larry King had assaulted her? Did she tell you?
She didn't tell me that he had that weekend, but he has in the past. He had. I mean, they were violent. They've been violent in the past, yes.
And so do you know whether your mom told her lawyer this?
I'm sure she did. So I'm sure she told him, but I don't think that they felt like it was relevant to the weekend that in question.
So we're here now. You know what's happened. You know what the sentence Judge Newman imposed. So what will life look to you like? What will it seem to you without Cristina and with your mom being in prison?
It's going to be hard. I mean, I'm having flashbacks and reliving everything, the sentencing, the verdict. You know, people have been posting pictures of her, you know, when she found out the verdict. And the person that she keeps talking to in the videos that are being shown is me and my sister. You know, she's more worried about us. And of course, we're worried about her. You know, my concern is when she gets older and us not being able to be there for her and take care of her, like I always thought we would be able to. You know, she's taken care of us our whole lives, and the fact that we might not be allowed to ever be there for her, I mean, it hurts. You know, I want the best for my mom, I don't want her in prison.
Yeah, I understand that. I know you love your mom, but you have to also understand, I am sure you do, that Cristina was in a hot car for 5 hours and she died. How do you justify that?
I mean, the drug use, I know, I mean, it had a lot to do with the neglect that day, but they both testified, or my mom didn't testify, but she's told me and Larry testified that the car was on, or they both believed it to be on. I'm not, you know, I questioned the video, honestly, like if there were pieces that were missing. You know, I watched it myself, you know, like they said it's motion censored, but the dog kind of appears without ever showing him coming out the door. I think that their initial turning on the car might have been taken out in the video. I questioned the evidence that Jason Chapman gave that the car wouldn't test it till 4 years later. You know, he had 4 years to test the car, but he tested it the Friday before the trial. And I do believe the video he submitted was very biased, because the video had a kid screaming "mommy" in the background, which was biased to the trial. And not only that, you know, how valid would the evidence be if there is a child screaming in the background, you know, maybe his child or somebody else's child at the scene while he's testing the video, that essentially determined, you know, the sentence of my mom's rest of her life. You know, it's just, there's a lot that I question. The testimonies of Brittany Honeycutt and Lindsay Lewis, I felt like never should have been allowed. They were very biased, essentially hearsay. To my mom's house, we've never even seen a bed bug, and the police never gave my mom back her phone. You know, that's the big point, that you know, her phone could have helped her attorney better prepare for the evidence. You know, maybe showing that Lindsay Lewis consensually agreed to watch my sister that weekend. you know, how Brittany Honeycutt was being evicted, you know, and someone being evicted out of another home is going to be scorned. And, you know, about my mom, I just don't think that those testimonies should have even been allowed.
Ashley, can I just interrupt you and ask you 1 second though? I'd be remiss. Everyone has read that the police were called to you when your kids were in the car for a few minutes and you were charged with some kind of minor offense. Is it something normal? Was there a belief that it'd be okay to leave kids in the car with the air conditioning? Where'd this come from? Because you have to understand that, and I know you do, that Cristina died. So was there something passed down that this is normal? Is this normal practice where you are? Is it normal practice in your family?
It's definitely not a normal practice, but I think that she just didn't think my sister was in harm, like being harmed. She believed the AC was on. As far as me, my daughter was verbal, and she was old enough to ask me if she could sit in the car while I went and paid a bill. When the AC was on, she had drank and food when I had done it, and I was gone maybe 10 to 12 minutes when I, you know, went and paid a bill and came right back. So,
yeah.
But
so what would you say then
of
to
course.
people? What would you say then to people? Not to do this, not to leave your kids in the car. Is there a lesson to be learned here? Could Cristina's death teach everyone a lesson about children in hot cars?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Like now I never even leave mine in the car for a minute. You know, if I go into the gas station to get a drink, they're coming right in with me, no matter how old they are or what the temperature is outside, whether my AC is running or not. Like my kids are never left alone for not even a single second. Made me definitely more aware and alert of that.
And maybe by you talking about it, it'll make other people more aware about that Cristina at least didn't die in vain. She died with an education for all of you not to leave your kids in a car. Actually, anything else you want to tell us that you haven't talked about?
Just that I love my mom very much. You know, we stand behind her, and we'll forever miss her as well as my sister.
Ashley Pangalangan, I really want to thank you. Ashley Pangalangan, I'm sorry, you're making me very emotional. I know you're very emotional, and I know that you will mourn the loss of Cristina, and we understand that you do love your mom, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us and what you've learned. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the other case in that same courtroom. That's Judge Newman's case, as you know, the case of Alec Murdaugh.